From humble tutoring gigs in Queens to lavish penthouses overlooking Manhattan, from oceanfront estates in Florida to rugged fortresses in Scotland, the Trump lineage has woven its narrative not only via politics or commerce, but via the grand residences they've inhabited. Every property transcends mere location. It's an emblem of influence, drive, and enduring heritage. Before we plunge deeper, go ahead and subscribe, plus give it a thumbs up. That support truly fuels my ability to produce in-depth docs like this one. And as you tune in, share in the comments where you're viewing from, the current time there, and perhaps which of these abodes best captures the essence of the Trumps. Pillars of an empire stretching from Queens to Fifth Avenue. Nowadays, the Trump moniker evokes images of shimmering skyscrapers along Fifth Avenue, vast golf retreats, and the whirlwind of U.S. politics. Yet the family's ascent didn't kick off with towering icons or Oval Office bids. Its origins trace back to the unassuming avenues of Queens and Brooklyn, where everyday apartment blocks and terraced homes laid the groundwork for a burgeoning wealth. To grasp the tale of the Trump residences, their opulent corridors and polished steps, we must rewind to the realm of Frederick Chris Trump, father to Donald Trump, amid the outer boroughs of early 1900s New York City. Frederick, or simply Fred as he was known, entered the world in 1905 in the Bronx, offspring of Friedrich Trump, a German newcomer who'd struck it rich in Alaska's gold rush. But Friedrich's death during the 1918 flu pandemic left the young Fred without a father at just 13. It fell to his mother, Elizabeth Chris Trump, to channel the family's slim resources and steer Fred toward the hands-on craft of woodworking. Like countless immigrant households, they lacked a roadmap to riches, relying solely on a fierce resolve to outwork everyone around them. By 15, Fred had erected his debut dwelling. Far from extravagant or expansive, it nonetheless stood out, a teen crafting a rentable structure amid peers. Picture your teenage years, typically filled with math classes or social circles, while Fred wielded hammers and installed frames. That initial shift from raw materials to revenue planted the kernel of the Trump property dynasty. Through the 1920s and 1930s, New York pushed its boundaries. With Manhattan overflowing, fresh transit links and spans transformed Queens and Brooklyn into prime spots for growth. Fred spotted potential not in upscale spots, but in budget-friendly dwellings for the growing ranks of middle and working-class folks. He erected lines of sturdy brick homes featuring practical designs. No royal abodes, yet reliable, respectable, and most crucially, lucrative. In essence, Fred personified the era's developer ethos. He shunned spotlight or status, focusing instead on solid yields. He grasped that reliable leases and state-supported loans ensured reliability. Post-Depression, as New Deal initiatives birthed the Federal Housing Administration, Fred embraced it fully. He honed in on FHA-supported builds, raising thousands of spaces for post-Woody vets and their kin. These were the suburbs of suburban ideals, where newlyweds craved modern kitchens and yards for grilling sessions. Fred's ventures shared a consistent aesthetic: crimson brick exteriors, tidy yards, patterns prioritizing utility over splendor. Detractors might claim a shortage of flair, but flair missed the mark. He crafted security, one street at a time, neighborhood by neighborhood. For myriad households, those units marked their entry into respectable living. For Fred Trump, they solidified a legacy of prosperity across generations. The approach was direct yet potent. Fred minimized expenses through direct site supervision, funneled earnings back into expansions, and tapped federal aid for funding. Come the 1940s and 1950s, the Trump Organization oversaw thousands of properties spanning Queens and Brooklyn. Hardly flashy labor, but consistent, and it bestowed upon the family a key asset: volume. Still, within these unpretentious starts, hints of future grandeur emerge. Fred prized magnitude, larger ventures, greater capacity, full-scale communities over isolated structures. He championed marking, frequently etching the Trump label onto his creations to imply reliability or upward mobility. And he recognized that property dealt not solely in masonry, but in mindset. Renters weren't merely leasing spaces, they invested in the assurance of steadiness, even if that assurance came clad in basic brickwork, not gleaming stone. To envision the shift, envision yourself before one of Fred's 1950s projects, an orderly lineup of 6-level residential blocks, folks settling in with moving crates and prams, dwellings for educators, merchants, and transit workers. Then, leap ahead to the Trump Tower from the working-class enclaves of 1980s Queens. Dark-tinted glass piercing the Manhattan horizon, upscale shops gleaming with opulence and sleek vehicles arriving at the entrance. The gulf separating those realms forms the very cradle of the Trump legacy. Fred Trump certainly faced his share of scandals. During the 1950s, authorities probed him for allegedly inflating expenses on federal projects to boost payouts. By the 1970s, he and his son Donald drew fire for alleged bias in choosing renters, echoing the deep-seated racial tensions in New York's rental market. Such dark chapters add layers to the tale, showing that the family's fortunes rested not just on construction skills and loans, but also on tactics influenced by bias and regulatory gaps. Still, Fred's ambitions paid off in the ways that counted for him above all. He elevated the Trump clan from humble newcomers to one of the city's premier property-owning lineages. When Donald reached adulthood in the 1960s, the enterprise was already solid, profitable, and primed for growth into the heart of Manhattan. Picture it as a baton pass in a marathon. Fred covered the opening stretch, gaining momentum through the steady sprawl of residential developments in Queens and Brooklyn. He passed along a legacy of sturdy structures, reliable income streams, and fiscal stability to Donald, who gazed toward the dazzle of Fifth Avenue and craved far beyond mere reliability. He sought extravagance. Thus, while current news links the Trump brand to lavish high-rise apartments coated in gilt, sprawling properties, and private golf courses, the origins trace back to the buzz of construction sites and tools in everyday neighborhood avenues. Prior to the crystal fixtures and ornate pillars, there stood simple brick buildings financed by state-supported loans. The grand estates tied to the Trumps might capture the public's fancy, but their beginnings rooted in those unpretentious dwellings erected by an aspiring builder who saw potential for an enduring lineage even in Queens. Trump Tower Penthouse, Manhattan's gilded pinnacle. Perched high over Fifth Avenue, amid honking taxis darting like insects and pavements alive with shop illuminations, resides one of the boldest dwellings in contemporary U.S. property. The Trump Tower Penthouse transcends a mere residence. It serves as a showcase, a regal chamber, and a reflection of the vision and drive of its renowned creator. Where Fred Trump constructed with stone for everyday households, Donald shifted skyward to gleaming metal, reflective surfaces, and precious metals. Atop that shadowy glass spire, 3 floors of polished stone and ornate detailing evoked a contemporary palace suspended in the heavens. Upon its 1983 debut, Trump Tower stunned Manhattan like nothing in years, soaring 58 levels over Fifth Avenue, its exterior clad in shadowy mirror-like panels, as though the structure shielded its eyes from the urban blaze. Within, a towering 6-level lobby featured cascading rose-hued stone, flowing water features, and moving stairways that sparkled like elements from a futuristic tale. This edifice commanded the gaze, and crowning it was Donald Trump's personal triplex, spanning the highest tiers and accessible solely to his chosen circle. The layout screamed boldness, infused with ornate French decorative motifs. Gilded accents trimmed the edges, tall classical pillars stretched to reflective overheads, and sparkling light fixtures scattered rays over stone surfaces sourced from Italy. Guests likened stepping inside not to an ordinary flat, but to a film stage, a royal domain squeezed into a towering frame. In the main gathering area, painted ceiling murals portrayed mythological deities, complemented by lavish seating in the vein of Louis XIV below. Subtlety had no place here, restraint was absent. Every element proclaimed, "This is the domain of a figure wielding influence, riches, and bold indulgence." To U.S. observers, the Trump Tower penthouse bordered on the whimsical, yet held an undeniable allure. In 1980s New York, a metropolis of sharp juxtapositions thrived. Financial extravagance on Wall Street, street art on subways, vibrant spots like Studio 54. The residents embodied that societal push-pull. Devotees saw it as an emblem of triumph, the descendant of arrivals who rose from outer boroughs to command Fifth Avenue's premier address. Detractors viewed it as an ode to ostentation, evidence that wealth could acquire finery, though not refinement. As the adage goes, dwellings echo their inhabitants. Here, that echo was quite direct. Polished metallic surfaces multiplied views of entrance, rendering the space vast yet personal. Yet past the furnishings, the penthouse acted as Donald Trump's grand platform. He held media sessions within its walls, featured in glossy photo shoots, and entertained from stars to leaders. It repeatedly starred in his personal storyline, an element in the broader drama of his image. Reporters aiming to distill Trump's core often snapped him under the opulent vaults overhead. The space doubled as a familial haven, albeit one arrayed in splendor. Ivanka, Don Jr., and Eric Trump passed portions of their early years unfolded amid the gleam of flawlessly buffed marble corridors, playthings positioned amid glittering chandeliers and lavish furnishings. For the children, this lofty residence wasn't a showcase, but a sanctuary, though one resembling a continental manor in every chamber. Maturing in such a space meant viewing Fifth Avenue not as a goal, but as an extension of their own grounds. The penthouse's emblematic power extended far past property lines, influencing realms of governance and mass media. In 2015, Donald Trump unveiled his bid for the presidency following his descent via the Trump Tower escalator, a theatrical move that swiftly achieved legendary status. The tower's opulent golden spaces, with hints of the penthouse visible, positioned his electoral effort as a seamless part of his persona, embodying affluence, allure, and the assurance that his individual triumphs could spark a broader national resurgence. During his time in the White House, journalists frequently revisited visuals of the penthouse as a concise emblem of the figure at its heart. Yet, under the lavish surface, a profound reality emerges. The penthouse represented an intentional break from Fred Trump's domain. Fred had constructed countless unadorned functional brick dwellings. Donald crafted a single residence, elevating it to the pinnacle of an imperial realm. It seemed the heir aimed to banish restraint from the lineage's tale, proclaiming the Trumps had transcended Queens' rental managers to become Manhattan's elite sovereigns. Where Fred had established bases, Donald adorned them lavishly. To numerous New York locals, the penthouse sparked intrigue, a sight of whispers and glossy images rather than direct encounters. Scarcely anyone visited personally, but it molded views of Trump as indelibly as his later television boardroom on The Apprentice. Akin to the resplendent corridors of ancient European rulers, it served dual purposes, sheltering its inhabitant while broadcasting a vision of authority, drive, and enduring legacy. Picture it on a serene night, the metropolis stretching out beneath, illuminated specks dancing over Central Park as the interior radiates a cozy luster from its fixtures. This juxtaposition of the vibrant, disorderly avenues and the serene, embellished interiors captures the essence of the Trump saga, an existence anchored in New York's raw energy, yet soaring beyond it, in both physical and metaphorical senses. Today, the Trump Tower penthouse endures as it did back in the 1980s, New York's shimmering tiara, divisive yet etched in memory, a sprawling triplex blending dwelling, performance space, and legend. From this vantage, the Trump clan gazed beyond, spanning not just Manhattan, but the entire nation, ready to propel their legacy from Fifth Avenue into global lore. Mar-a-Lago, a Palm Beach Versailles. If the Trump Tower penthouse crowned Donald Trump's domain, Mar-a-Lago evolved into his vast realm. Nestled between the Atlantic's waves and the intracoastal waterway in Palm Beach, Florida, the property sprawls over 20 acres, evoking a contemporary Versailles relocated to America's shores. Well before Trump repurposed it as his seasonal presidential haven, Mar-a-Lago stood as one of the nation's grandest estates, a stucco and tile fortress adorned with gilded accents, ordered by an heiress seeking uncompromised excellence. The tale originates with Marjorie Merriweather Post, the serial fortune's beneficiary who once held the title of America's wealthiest woman. In the 1920s, she dreamed of a winter escape that would eclipse Palm Beach's offerings. She craved more than a seaside villa. She sought a fortress commanding both the shore and the elite social scene. Collaborating with architect Marion Sims Wyeth and designer Joseph Urban, she erected a 126-room palace fusing Mediterranean, Spanish, and Moorish influences. Its corridors brimmed with sourced tiles, sculpted timber vaults, and Murano glass fixtures. Post dubbed it Mar-a-Lago, drawing from Latin for a beaked, one wen, reflecting its reach from beach to inland bay. For years, the grounds reigned as Palm Beach's treasure, welcoming monarchs, leaders, and business magnates. Upon Post's passing in 1973, she bequeathed Mar-a-Lago to the federal government, envisioning it as a leader's getaway similar to Camp David. However, the upkeep expenses for such an expansive, elaborate site proved overwhelming. By the 1980s, authorities relinquished the bequest, returning it to the Post Foundation. Then came Donald Trump. Having already erected Trump Tower, he pursued a holding that would anchor his status not merely in Manhattan, but in the affluent haven of America's winter elite. Palm Beach's elite circles were notoriously exclusive, ruled by long-standing fortunes that scorned bold outsiders. Trump, with his flair for grandeur, didn't align seamlessly. Yet he possessed a keen sense for icons, recognizing Mar-a-Lago as his gateway to acceptance. In 1985, after prolonged bargaining, Trump secured the property for an estimated $10 million, roughly equivalent to a Manhattan penthouse's cost then. The transaction encompassed many of Post's authentic pieces and a coastal lot valued higher than the full sum. It ranked among his most astute deals. Trump promptly began reshaping Ma from a secluded private residence. Mar-a-Lago evolved into a prominent social venue. He overhauled the chambers, revived the ornate gilded ceilings, and organized gatherings that attracted stars, lawmakers, and members of Palm Beach's elite circle, people who had previously overlooked him. He sparred with town authorities regarding land use and club regulations, yet every dispute simply enhanced the legend. During the 1990s, as his funds grew tight, Trump converted the property into an exclusive club, offering memberships that provided entry to the opulent ballrooms, tennis facilities, and elegant dining spaces. An initial move driven by economic pressures transformed into a resounding social success. Mar-a-Lago ceased to be merely a dwelling. It emerged as an enterprise and a symbol. The estate's interiors continue to impress with their lavish splendor. The parlor extends almost 100 feet, adorned with gold leaf trim and ancient 16th-century Flemish wall hangings. Polished marble surfaces shine under grand Venetian light fixtures. In the formal dining area, a 29-foot table gleams beneath sparkling crystal illumination, evoking the opulent banquets of old European palaces. For numerous guests, crossing the threshold seems less like stepping into a Florida property and more akin to exploring the Alhambra or Versailles. Trump frequently highlighted this resemblance, portraying Mar-a-Lago as a national gem and a testament to his own vision. Following Trump's presidential victory in 2016, Mar-a-Lago assumed a fresh purpose: the Winter White House. There, he entertained international figures, ranging from Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to China's President Xi Jinping. Media outlets documented convoys gliding through its entrance, journalists posted beside its palm-flanked pathways, and officials exchanging greetings under its lavish vaults. A former retreat for the affluent, briefly served as an informal center for international relations. To Trump, this represented the pinnacle of affirmation. His personal domain had ascended to a platform for global events. However, much like the broader Trump saga, Mar-a-Lago brims with complexities. For certain observers, it stands as an emblem of U.S. drive, a site erected by a serial heiress, revived by a bold entrepreneur, and elevated into a nexus of governance and society. To detractors, it embodies overindulgence, illustrating how fortune can influence policies and alter neighborhoods. Palm Beach locals oscillated between irritation and respect for Trump's presence, whereas club affiliates delighted in the privileges it afforded. What distinguishes Mar-a-Lago from Trump's other holdings is its vastness and legacy. In contrast to the Trump Tower penthouse, which sprang up anew, Mar-a-Lago bore the patina of generations of magnificence. Unlike Seven Springs or the Trump golf resorts, it transcended mere housing to become a heritage site, celebrated for its design and historical significance. Trump's stewardship appended yet another layer to its chronicle, weaving his own tale into the fabric of Palm Beach. Envisioning Mar-a-Lago in the present, picture yourself on the grounds as dusk falls across the intracoastal waterway. The structure radiates in hues of amber and rose, its spires capturing the fading rays. Within, grand halls sparkle from suspended lights, while beyond, the ocean surges toward the coastline. It blends eternity with drama, a fortress relocated to Florida, eternally tied to the Trump legacy. Spanning from Marjorie Merriweather Post's vision to Donald Trump's seasonal executive retreat, Mar-a-Lago has surpassed simple habitation. It declares opulence, determination, and the conviction that one grand property can mold not only a lineage, but also a country's collective vision. Seven Springs, a rural retreat in New York. Beyond Manhattan to the north, where towering buildings yield to gentle slopes and serene ponds, lies one of the Trump clan's more understated yet captivating properties. Seven Springs. Covering 213 acres in Bedford, New York, this estate and its extensive lands reflect a contrasting facet of the family's engagement with property development. Distinct from Trump Tower's vibrant allure or Mar-a-Lago's lavish spectacle, Seven Springs delivers a serene majesty, an idyllic American manor that murmurs rather than proclaims, though still enveloped in an air of affluence and aspiration. The land existed long before the Trumps entered the picture. Constructed in 1919 for Eugene Meyer, a banker who eventually led the Federal Reserve and owned the Washington Post, the residence was fashioned with meticulous attention to timeless artistry. In Georgian architectural vein, the 50,000-square-foot dwelling featured 60 chambers, broad verandas, and sweeping vistas of the nearby terrain. Its design evoked a European refinement adapted to New York's rural expanse, balanced proportions, crimson brick exteriors, and rooms enriched with exquisite carpentry and masonry. This wasn't contemporary ostentation, but a domain anchored in the heritage of elite Americana. When Donald Trump acquired Seven Springs in 1995, he was well established in New York City. The transaction, valued at about $7.5 million, signaled a shift from his usual city center ventures. This wasn't the bustle of Fifth Avenue, nor the sun-soaked allure of Palm Beach. It was serene, verdant Bedford, a community rich and better recognized for its equestrian estates and subtle affluence, rather than lavish displays like gilded staircases. Seven Springs caught Donald Trump's eye as a serene escape for his kin, and possibly a foundation for fresh ventures. The property's expanse is truly awe-inspiring. Envision strolling along its extended gravel paths, bordered by open fields and woodlands, until the grand house emerges dramatically. Within its walls lie 15 sleeping quarters, an expansive reading room, and an elegant banquet hall capable of accommodating scores of visitors. The construction evokes timeless artistry at its finest. Think robust stone hearths, intricate sculpted trim, and an enduring sturdiness that harks back to a bygone age of U.S. prosperity. Beyond the structure, the terrain unfolds over undulating slopes, featuring 3 swimming areas, stable buildings, and a secluded pond. During fall evenings, the whole domain shimmers in hues of gold and crimson, resembling an idyllic scene from a masterful canvas. In the 1990s and 2000s, Seven Springs served as a central hub for the Trump clan. Snaps from that era captured Donald alongside his offspring, Don Jr., Ivanka, and Eric, lounging by the water or wandering the acreage. Eric Trump especially grew attached to the spot, eventually calling it the site where he picked up skills in angling and handling all-terrain vehicles. For a lineage typically associated with corporate suites and gala events, this haven offered an uncommon link to nature, underscoring that even powerful lineages require open spaces for leisure. However, much like other Trump assets, Seven Springs transcended mere seclusion. Over time, Trump proposed schemes to repurpose it into a golfing venue, an upscale housing development, or an exclusive social enclave. These visions never came to fruition, hindered in part by community resistance and the difficulties of development on terrain rich in heritage and ecological value. The residence stayed mostly unaltered, functioning as an impressive yet underutilized holding. Lately, the estate has drawn scrutiny not for its allure, but for its involvement in fiscal probes. Authorities examined its appraised values, highlighting inconsistencies between figures used for taxation and those in commercial filings. As with numerous Trump possessions, Seven Springs got caught up in larger discussions surrounding fortune, accountability, and the fuzzy boundaries between residences as dwellings and as tools for investment. Still, stripping away the juridical and monetary clamor, Seven Springs represents a key segment in the Trump saga of grand homes. It illustrates that their realm extends beyond shiny steel and precious metals to include masonry, timber, and rock. While Trump Tower aimed to captivate the public with flair, Seven Springs murmured invitations to aficionados of rural refinement. If Mar-a-Lago embodied extravagance, Seven Springs embodied withdrawal. Visualize the relatives assembled there during calmer periods, kids casting lines into the pond. With Jackie Kennedy's former enclave of Bedford merely minutes distant, the house bathed in a gentle dusk light. In such instances, Seven Springs shifted from a launchpad for goals to a locus of kinship. This rural fortress enabled the Trumps, if only briefly, to slip from public view and attune to nature's cycles. Despite the surrounding disputes, the property endures as one of the most compelling in the Trump collection. It lacks the renown of Mar-a-Lago or the symbolism of Trump Tower, yet its magnitude and legacy lend it a weight unmatched by more recent acquisitions. Seven Springs links the enduring principles of established wealth with the Trumps' flair for promotion, a testament that empires form not solely in urban centers and legal arenas, but in tranquil rural expanses as well. Eric and Lara Trump's abode in Jupiter, Florida. Whereas Donald Trump's era focused on erecting towers and claiming estates, his heirs matured amid a pre-forged domain. Their dwellings, though not as colossal as Mar-a-Lago or Trump Tower, embody legacy and evolution, blending domestic routines with opulent accents. This duality shines brightest in Eric and Lara Trump's Jupiter home, a villa drawing from Tuscan motifs that situates them firmly in the Trump sphere while immersing them in Florida's elite coastal lifestyle. Nestled on Florida's Treasure Coast, Jupiter has traditionally appealed to golf lovers and seekers of subdued splendor, distinct from Palm Beach's intense glamour. Stars, sports figures, and investors flock to its secured enclaves, pristine courses, and ocean winds. For the couple, it provided closeness to Donald Trump's expansive Florida assets, especially the Trump National Golf Club, all while fashioning a private refuge distant from Mar-a-Lago's intensity. Acquired in 2018 for about $3.2 million, the villa boasts a pronounced Tuscan aesthetic. Picture sun-baked ochre-plaster facades emerging from palm-shaded entrances, curved openings and portals evoking Mediterranean abodes, and a sun-warmed terracotta tiling. It forgoes the dramatic gilded chambers of Trump Tower, opting instead for a subdued grandeur, the sort of sophistication crafted to subtly captivate. The residence strikes a balance in its design, avoiding excess while exuding refinement. Within, it covers more than 7,000 square feet. High vaulted ceilings lead into spaces bathed in sunlight, featuring visible timber rafters and wrought iron details that enhance the Tuscan vibe. At the core of countless households, the kitchen is vast, equipped with marble surfaces and professional-level fixtures, perfect for cozy meals or big celebrations. Several lounging areas, an elegant eating room, and expansive verandas promote seamless transitions from inside to outside, ideal for Florida's weather. The property's highlight lies in its golf ties. The house abuts the Trump National Golf Club in Jupiter, among the top courses around. For Eric, deeply involved in overseeing parts of the Trump Organization's golf holdings, this spot offers more than ease. It's a mark of legacy. This home isn't merely a dwelling, it's a key piece in the Trump network, strengthening the brand's links to greens, club facilities, and elite circles. To the Trumps, golf transcends leisure. It embodies commerce, social bonds, and personal essence combined. Daily life at the Jupiter home has been molded equally by kin and structure. Eric and Lara, wed in 2014, have nurtured their young ones amid these surroundings, merging the pace of raising a family with the pressures of visibility. The generous exterior zones, meadows, decks, and a palm-fringed pool, double as playgrounds for the children and venues for gatherings. Thus, the abode serves twin purposes, a secluded haven and a visible sign of steadiness. Still, like fellow Trump holdings, the Jupiter place carries layers of meaning. It shows how the rising Trumps opt to dwell in the realm of their inheritance. Though Ivanka and Jared eyed Washington, D.C. and then Miami, Eric and Lara have rooted themselves in core Trump lands. Settling in Jupiter underscores the clan's growing bond with Florida, now a cherished escape and key political base. The dwelling's motif also hints at evolving tastes across generations. Whereas Donald Trump favored the flashy gold-trimmed flair of his high-rise apartment, Eric's place prioritizes coziness over flash, its Tuscan essence, with neutral hues, rough plaster finishes, and sturdy charm, evoking reliability and enduring appeal, despite its grand size signaling prosperity. This implies that for Eric and Lara, riches mean a way of being, not mere display. The links, the relatives, the measured grace of a villa move to the sunny peninsula. To Jupiter residents, the Trumps mix stardom with familiarity. The mansion, though lavish, doesn't loom over the area like Mar-a-Lago does in Palm Beach. Rather, it fits into a district of comparable compounds, each shielded by secure gates, each weighing seclusion against status. Here, Eric and Lara's home mirrors a more understated approach to inherited prominence, honoring heritage while fitting contemporary needs for ease and domesticity. Imagine a typical Sunday dawn. Rays cascading across the clay-tiled roof, Lara caring for the steeds at a close-by barn, Eric off to the links, kids splashing near the pool. This scene feels worlds away from the executive suites and crowds that define the Trump image. Yet under that serene facade, the property ties into the broader tale. It's about how one lineage transformed residences into icons of self, fortune, and roots. Amid the Trump estate chronicles, the Jupiter one might not shine brightest, but its value stems from its essence. The handover of power from father to son, from the opulent skyline suite to the Tuscan retreat. In its manner, it's a pillar of the family's Sunshine State domain. A nod that even in realms forged by drama, some segments unfold in softer shades of earth and glow. Donald Trump Jr.'s seaside stronghold at Admiral's Cove. Nestled in Jupiter's Florida enclave amid waterways and trimmed turf, Donald Trump Jr.'s waterfront retreat in Admiral's Cove stands as a bold showcase of the Trump penchant for magnitude. Boasting 11 baths, lofty arches, and sweeping aquatic panoramas, the site feels more like a grand theater than a simple family abode, built to magnify the clan's signature extravagance. Unlike his sibling Eric's cozy Tuscan haven in Jupiter, which radiates approachable rusticity, Don Jr.'s pile tilts toward bastion-style splendor, enormous, commanding, and artfully arranged to make a lasting mark. Admiral's Cove epitomizes elite seclusion. Launched in the 1980s, it rose swiftly as a top haven for the affluent in Florida. Merging high-end homes with a yacht basin, links, and members-only venues, it delivers both isolation and display. Residents tie up their boats right at their rear entrances, savor its seaside pavilions, and engage in a vibrant social circle that fuses inherited wealth's discretion with fresh fortune's glamour. For Donald Trump Jr., navigating household duties, professional pursuits, and the enduring influence of his dad's heritage, Admiral's Cove delivered an ideal mix of seclusion and prominence. The residence he acquired in 2021 for roughly $11 million covers more than 11,000 square feet. Envisioning it evokes a building that merges grandeur with meticulous detail. Externally, the dwelling draws the eye through its Mediterranean-style facade, curved panes, smooth plaster surfaces, verandas edged in wrought iron, and terracotta tiles that shimmer beneath Florida's rays. The design conveys authority and elegance, whispering, quote tutu. Internally, the space reveals itself as a maze of opulence. The 11 bathrooms hint at its vastness, each outfitted with stone, transparent panels, and gleaming fixtures, guaranteeing that visitors or dwellers always have a secluded haven nearby. Numerous sleeping quarters, a high-end cooking area, and expansive communal zones span the layout. Soaring heights lend chambers a sanctuary feel, accented by hanging lights that nod to Trump Tower's ornate sparkle, yet tempered for Florida's shoreline vibe. A cinema room, storage for vintages, and fitness center layer on extra luxuries, turning the compound into an independent realm of ease and prestige. Yet the core of this grand home lies in its waterside allure. Admiral's Cove revolves around channels linking straight to the Intracoastal Waterway, and Donald Trump Jr.'s property exploits this fully. A personal pier enables seamless launches from the rear yard, with the lagoon sparkling amid Florida's perpetual glow. The swimming area and external patios flow effortlessly into this backdrop, tailored for events that dissolve the boundary between relaxation and display. In this spot, relatives can throw soirees where bubbly flutes mirror the dusk over the harbor, or just slip away on the waves from a vessel mere paces from the lounge. To Donald Trump Jr., the compound also serves as a hub for domestic bliss. His 5 kids, born from unions with Vanessa Trump and his subsequent betrothal to Kimberly Guilfoyle, matured amid sprawling abodes as standard. Admiral's Cove, featuring wide meadows, roomy interiors, and a guarded enclave, offers both recreation ground and bastion. The discreet guards and entry barriers shield from intrusive photographers and partisan detractors, while the dwelling's dimensions assure seclusion even among kin. The site further embodies persistence in the Trump clan's Sunshine State footprint. With Eric established close by in Jupiter and Donald Sr. entrenched at Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump Jr.'s selection of Admiral's Cove forges a triad of Trump footholds along Florida's shoreline. Every estate captures a unique facet of the lineage's way of life, yet collectively they craft a network of sway reaching from Palm Beach to the Treasure Coast. What distinguishes Donald Trump Jr.'s property is its focus on magnitude. 11 bathrooms might appear in excess, verging on the ridiculous, yet it aligns with the Trump philosophy. Larger equates to superior, and profusion itself embodies strength. Where some detect excess, the Trumps view a backdrop for eminence. A visitor traversing such a residence can't avoid absorbing its intent. This is a clan that exists without bounds. Still, beneath the lavishness lurks a certain everyday American appeal. Countless households fantasize about a lagoon-side dwelling, a rear pier, or a structure spacious enough to welcome offspring and descendants with ease. Donald Trump Jr.'s Admiral's Cove estate merely amplifies that vision, expanding its scope until it evolves into a citadel. Much like the lineage, it elevates common desires into something both approachable and otherworldly. Imagining it during a serene dusk reveals the residence aglow against the bay, its patios illuminated gently as vessels pass smoothly. Within, the buzz of life, kids' giggles, dialogues resonating across immense corridors, fills a space that could otherwise seem hollow. Through this balance of grandeur and closeness, the Admiral's Cove property captures the essence of Trump existence in the modern era. A existence performed on a vast platform, yet grounded in the patterns of kinship and residence. Like all Trump holdings, Admiral's Cove transcends mere shelter. It stands as a symbol, a tangible assertion of self. For Donald Trump Jr., it signifies not only affluence, but endurance, not just protection, but inheritance. A seaside stronghold indeed, but likewise a cue that amid barriers of stone and panes, empires keep shaping themselves, one estate at a time. Ivanka and Jared's Kalorama Mansion in Washington. Nestled in the core of Washington, D.C., a district subtly secluded from Capitol Hill's frenzy and Pennsylvania Avenue's glaring spotlights, sits Kalorama. Its title, drawn from the Greek words for lovely panorama, as though it fits seamlessly, the allure of this place lies not in sweeping landscapes, but in its sense of structure, heritage, and subdued elegance. Kalorama has served as a haven for retired presidents, diplomats, and top government leaders. Here, protection units are nearly as ubiquitous as yard workers, and influence is gauged less by glaring signs than by the enduring strength of stone fronts and elaborate metal barriers. In 2017, as Donald Trump stepped into the White House, Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner settled into this exclusive district. Their acquisition of a $5.5 million estate went beyond a mere property deal. It represented their shift from Manhattan elites to Capitol insiders, placing them both literally and figuratively among the nation's elite influencers. For a lineage shaped by towering buildings and luxury retreats, this phase stood out, grounded in governance instead of business and closeness to authority rather than showmanship. The property in Kalorama embodies this blended character. Acquired that year, the 6-bedroom, 6-bathroom dwelling dates to 1923. Its brick exterior, tempered by curved panes and straightforward outlines, echoing federal architecture, exudes composure. In contrast to the shiny panels of Trump Tower or the dramatic plaster of Mar-a-Lago, this residence conveys restraint, poise, and even modesty. However, entering reveals its grandeur. Spanning almost 7,000 square feet, it features lofty ceilings, broad gathering areas, and a refined fusion of classic and contemporary touches. Polished wood surfaces lie under ornate ceiling details, with hearth centering spaces suited for daily routines or grand gatherings. For Ivanka and Jared, the estate fulfilled various roles. Primarily, it acted as a family retreat where they nurtured their 3 young kids under the strains of DC existence. The rear yard offered a scarce oasis of foliage in the urban core, allowing playtime for the children near the watchful eyes of agents posted at the perimeter. Sleeping quarters were arranged for ease, and the luminous modern kitchen, roomy and efficient, facilitated shared dinners despite hectic routines. Yet the dwelling also symbolized much more. Situated mere blocks from Barack and Michelle Obama's dwelling after leaving the White House, its location thrust Ivanka and Jared into Kalorama's sphere and alongside the country's leading political dynasties. Envoys, lawmakers, and influencers resided close by. For the Kushner-Trump family, the location itself conveyed a statement. They had earned a spot among the mighty and aimed to exert sway not just via legislation, but through their very footing. As Jared Kushner acted as the president's chief counselor and Ivanka advised on finance and gender matters, the Kalorama home turned into a discreet center for discussions and gatherings. Though it drew far fewer cameras than Mar-a-Lago events or Trump Tower entrances, the space welcomed guests from DC's realms of politics, commerce, and international affairs. Its subtle sophistication provided an ideal backdrop for off-the-record negotiations, where crystal fixtures lit up planning talks and curved frames overlooked avenues filled with convoys. Observers noted the gap between the home's modest aesthetic and the Trump's typical flair for gilt and stone. Some saw it as evidence of Ivanka and Jared's adjustment, adopting the capital's more conventional standards of decorum. Others viewed it as a facade, an effort to temper their persona while advancing the Trump legacy into the core of American governance. Regardless, the residents mirrored a fresh segment in their saga, where property choices emphasized credibility over flash. Nevertheless, entering Kalorama brought tensions. Locals voiced concerns over closed roads, robust protection teams, and the disturbances of residing beside figures who drew crowds of demonstrators and news crews. Government vehicles lining the tight pathways served as an ongoing signal that this was no typical family setup. For veteran Kalorama dwellers who prized seclusion, the Kushner-Trump's presence highlighted how public service alters even the most serene urban pockets. Even so, the house held deep personal meaning for Ivanka. Raised amid the lavish excess of Trump Tower and later in New York Aries and Sunshine State getaways, she now inhabited a space crafted for harmony rather than display. In public talks, she described her DC period as one of profound duties, both in her career and motherhood. The Kalorama estate, with its toned-down refinement, let her present as a strategic expert and devoted mom, a gentler persona that differed from her father's bolder persona. Picture a night in the residence with the capital's glow shimmering past leafy boulevards, processions gliding by as the kids head to bed above. In the lower level, Jared pores over briefs in a serene office while Ivanka P. prepares for a gathering at the White House. The residence buzzes not with celebrations or photographers, but with the subdued fervor of politics unfolding within securely protected boundaries. The segment on Kalorama highlights how the Trump family tailored their residence narrative to various settings. In New York, their properties signaled drive and determination. In Palm Beach, they displayed grandeur. In Washington, they conveyed credibility. Although Ivanka and Jared have since departed, shifting to Miami following the Trump administration, their Kalorama home endures in the storyline as the dwelling that embodied their bid to intertwine familial heritage with federal leadership. It transcended a mere $5.5 million property. It stood as a declaration that the Trump lineage, originating in Queens and embellished along Fifth Avenue, could establish roots in the core of Washington's most elite enclave, and briefly exist as both locals and influential players amid the nation's upper echelon, Ivanka's Upper East Side condominium. Prior to the relocation to Washington and the existence of a family immersed in politics at Kalorama, Ivanka Trump had secured her distinct niche in Manhattan, a metropolis where she entered the world amid affluence, yet aimed to forge a persona separate from merely being Donald Trump's offspring. Her Upper East Side condominium emerged as an ideal emblem of this pursuit, a space merging the recognizable sheen of Trump opulence with a subtler, contemporary vibe that reflected her personal preferences and goals. The Upper East Side, renowned for generations as among New York's premier districts, values refinement not through ostentation, but through location. Featuring tree-lined avenues, uniformed concierges, and a mix of historic brownstones alongside contemporary towers, the area has consistently epitomized the pinnacle of island existence. For Ivanka, whose early years unfolded in the lavish triplex atop Trump Tower, the Upper East Side provided both familiarity and renewal. She remained within Manhattan's orbit of clout and riches, but her selection of district and design implied she was authoring her independent saga. The condominium, situated at Trump Park Avenue, commands a coveted position at the intersection of Park Avenue and 59th Street, an intersection of Midtown energy and Uptown distinction. Acquired alongside her spouse Jared Kushner in 2011 for approximately $16 million, the abode embodies a refined, up-to-date take on extravagance. Diverging from the ornate splendor of her father's residence with its gilded ceilings and Rococo decor, Ivanka's space prioritizes crisp outlines, glossy finishes, and a look evoking an upscale boutique resort rather than a Versailles-modeled chamber. Enter the premises and the disparity becomes evident. Expansive windows from floor to ceiling bathe the rooms in illumination, granting sweeping vistas of Central Park and the city's silhouette. The decor favors subdued palettes, whites, ivories, and silvers, enhanced by contemporary artwork and spare decor. Fluid communal areas transition effortlessly, fostering an air of composed refinement. The kitchen, a focal point of the dwelling, combines utility and allure, boasting granite surfaces and high-grade steel fixtures suitable for routine family routines or lavish hosting. To Ivanka, the condominium served as more than a private sanctuary. It projected her professional persona. During that period, she managed her apparel and accessories venture, promoting the archetype of the contemporary career-oriented mother, harmonizing work, household, and poise. Images of the interior, sporadically featured in design publications or online platforms, bolstered this portrayal. Far from the showy realm of her father, it inspired in a manner tailored to appeal to ambitious urbanites, envisioning equilibrium between elevated residences and domestic harmony. Kinship formed the core of this era. The condominium housed Ivanka and Jared as they nurtured their small children prior to the 2017 transfer to Washington. Sleeping quarters blended extravagance with coziness. Kids' rooms incorporated whimsical elements for warmth, whereas the primary bedroom delivered a retreat of subtle grace. The site enabled Ivanka to anchor her household in Manhattan, echoing how the urban pulse and standards had molded her youth. The positioning held deeper significance as well. Park Avenue has enduringly symbolized New York stature, a thoroughfare boasting some of the metropolis's most guarded locales. Residing there denoted inclusion in an exclusive sphere, fusing fortune with legacy. For Ivanka, transitioning to the Upper East Side indicated a pivot from Trump Tower's flamboyance to Park Avenue's dignity, from her father's bold theatrics to a more deliberately shaped form of polish. Nevertheless, hints of Trump lavishness persisted. The condominium extended across several floors, encompassing far more area than typical city dwellers might envision. Sumptuousness gauged not solely by details, but by expansive dimensions. This equilibrium of moderation and magnitude echoed Ivanka herself, a figure molded by H.H. Her father's vast real estate legacy shaped much of Ivanka Trump's path, yet she sought to refine it for her personal circle. In several respects, the Upper East Side apartment represented a pivotal shift in Ivanka's personal journey. Acquired amid her ascent in the business realm, it provided the setting for her initial experiences as a parent and eventually yielded to the demands of political life in the capital. This residence captured her autonomy alongside her connection to the Trump property dynasty, a space that belonged to her yet bore the unmistakable imprint of the family legacy. Picture a typical night in that high-rise, the shimmering lights of Central Park fading into the horizon, the subtle buzz of city vehicles rising from the streets far below. As the kids unwind in their bedrooms, Ivanka gears up for a professional discussion or social gathering. The vibe here stands apart from the extravagance of Trump Tower, but remains deeply rooted in affluence and status. Such an environment conveys not just riches, but also ambition. It's a venue where the pursuit of complete success is both performed and embraced. Ivanka's Upper East Side retreat might lack the notoriety of Mar-a-Lago or the grandeur of Trump Tower, yet it forms an essential chapter in the Trump clan's housing narrative. It illustrates how the younger members adapted their surroundings to mirror their unique personas, harmonizing heritage with personal expression. For Ivanka, this place served as both a sanctuary and a declaration. Firmly embedded in New York City, tied to kin, and refined to suit an era where appearance and daily life intertwine seamlessly. Tiffany Trump, Beverly Hills, retreat. Within a lineage where properties frequently act as platforms for self-definition, Tiffany Trump's dwellings offer a more understated tale. Born to Donald Trump and performer Marla Maples, Tiffany navigated the divide between her dad's intense media glare and the calmer, Pacific-inspired pace influenced by her mom. Her housing decisions, starting with upscale Los Angeles spots and shifting to a Washington, D.C. row house, highlight her efforts to establish a separate niche in a heritage where locations often equate to influence. The Beverly Hills retreat, which earned that nickname over time, stood as Tiffany's clearest bid for autonomy. Bought in 2016, right when her father's campaign hit its zenith, this $1.1 million estate nestled amid the ridges overlooking Los Angeles. It paled next to Mar-a-Lago or a New York high-rise. Instead, it formed a deliberate West Coast haven that echoed her childhood alongside her mother and her wish for a routine diverging from the Trump opulence norm. Covering roughly 2,500 square feet, the property seemed unassuming by family benchmarks, but striking for someone in her mid-20s. Its contemporary layout included fluid communal areas, expansive panes of glass showcasing canyon vistas, and a bright cooking space topped with sleek stone surfaces. An upper-level terrace enabled the seamless inside-outside flow typical of elite LA living, ideal for sunset hours gazing at the urban glow twinkling in the valley. The emphasis lay on liberation over lavishness, a dwelling that suggested self-reliance quietly, without fanfare. This mattered greatly to Tiffany. In contrast to Ivanka's immersion in the Trump enterprise and campaign spheres, Tiffany continued exploring her role. Her West Coast base afforded her actual and metaphorical breathing room to ponder that. Acquaintances portrayed her as more introspective than her brothers and sisters, prizing seclusion in a household where it seldom existed. Situated on the opposite shore from Trump Tower and Mar-a-Lago, this LA residence embodied her yearning for separation. However, the Beverly Hills phase wasn't Tiffany's sole housing saga. While attending Georgetown Law in Washington, D.C., she occupied a row house in the refined DuPont Circle neighborhood mere minutes from the executive mansion. Leased instead of purchased, this spot merged practicality with sophistication, raw brick accents inside, gleaming timber flooring, and ample space for academics, guests, and a touch of discretion amid a town fixated on governance. These selections carried deeper meaning, as her siblings secured spots linked straight to the Trump Organization's holdings, Eric and Don Jr. in Florida compounds, Ivanka in Park Avenue apartments. Tiffany's choices appeared more intimate, less calculated. The Beverly Hills property immersed her in a scene nearer to entertainment hubs than finance districts, syncing with her mom's heritage and her ventures in style and communications. Her DuPont Circle rental, by comparison, linked to her dad's governance era, but through a subdued scholarly lens, positioning her as a bystander more than a key figure. Even so, her abodes drew notice. Though the Beverly Hills spot was compact beside the vast Trump-linked domains, it soon appeared in publications and property sites. Articles frequently juxtaposed its sleek minimalism against Trump Tower's ornate decor, portraying Tiffany as the distinct Tiffany Trump, a daughter drawn to the clean, modern vibes of California rather than the opulent Versailles-like gold trappings. Media attention on her properties mirrored a wider intrigue into how the Trump offspring showcased affluence via their residences, transforming personal retreats into open discussions. Her approach to designing living areas echoed her own journey of self-definition. Positioned as the family's West Coast representative, she showed up at gatherings yet stayed somewhat apart, with her dwellings mirroring that subtle separation. These places exuded luxury without excess, linked to the clan yet free from the overpowering Trump flair. Thus, the Beverly Hills retreat and Georgetown row house served as symbols of her position in the family. She belonged to the empire, but wasn't wholly shaped by it. Envision her in the Beverly Hills residence during a peaceful dusk, tunes floating out from wide-open panes, the urban glow underneath resembling a twinkling swarm of fireflies. This moment stands worlds away from her father's lavish high-rise apartment or the vast reception halls of Mar-a-Lago. Alternatively, visualize her in Georgetown after dark, legal texts scattered over a desk, the row house emitting a gentle light beneath the lanterns of DuPont Circle. Such visions depict an alternate cadence to the Trump existence, favoring contemplation above display, autonomy above inheritance. Though Tiffany's property selections don't grab front-page spots like Mar-a-Lago or Trump Tower, they form key pieces in the clan's grand estate tale. These choices highlight that environments go beyond mere riches. They embody personal essence. They show how a woman raised in one of the nation's most intensely watched lineages worked to craft her unique vision of sanctuary. In Beverly Hills, she fashioned a secluded spot. In Georgetown, she established a base in the capital. And in each, she etched her personal story within a lineage where no estate is merely a dwelling. Each one carries a message. Barron's secluded realms. Of all the Trump offspring, Baron William Trump stands out as the most mysterious. Arriving in 2006, he matured not amid the humble abodes of Queens as his grandfather Fred did, nor in the gold-soaked high-rise of the 1980s like his elder brothers and sisters, but amid a whirlwind of grand estates that served as both regal havens and exposed aquariums. His early life unfolded across three remarkable venues: Trump Tower in Manhattan, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, and the White House in Washington, D.C. Every location molded his notion of belonging in distinct fashions. Delving into Barron's hidden domains reveals the Trump lineage's estates viewed not via the perspectives of builders, leaders, or stars, but from the viewpoint of a youngster raised amid unrelenting display. Trump Tower, the ornate cradle. Barron's first phase played out in the Trump Tower triplex, a lavish setup his father crafted to eclipse Versailles. Typical kids recall humble neighborhood play areas or simple swings. For Barron, recollections involved sparkling light fixtures, gilded trim, and vaults adorned with divine murals. His play area wasn't some corner nook down a corridor. It formed an element of a sky-high fortress overlooking Fifth Avenue. Melania Trump once shared details of how she added playful touches to Barron's quarters, despite the surrounding splendor. As the rest of the area sparkled with stone surfaces and 24-karat highlights, his area featured tiny aircraft and choppers, echoing his interest in soaring through the air. At moments, he claimed whole levels of the triplex as his own, a realm adjusted to youthful proportions. Picturing it brings to mind a lad zooming a play vehicle over polished stone or frolicking under murals that had graced glossy layouts. Trump Tower introduced Barron to the clan's view on environments, that residences exist not just for habitation, but for projecting persona. While visitors outside the shiny exterior strained to glimpse upward within, a small child developed amid surroundings that felt like a global showpiece, envisioned by outsiders yet shielded from full view. Mar-a-Lago, the seasonal haven. As the household headed southward to Florida for cooler months, Barron swapped towering cityscapes for the expansive grounds of Mar-a-Lago. In this spot, his personal sphere grew vast. The 20-acre property provided what a city airy lacked: room to dash about, frolic, and withdraw. Palms rustled over patios, with the Atlantic reaching out past the ornate entrances. At Mar-a-Lago, Barron escaped strict stone confines. He could roam tennis areas, dip in pools, and wander through landscaped plots. Over festive times, the grounds buzzed with visitors, celebrations, and melodies. Still, hidden nooks existed, serene sections and leafy spots where a kid might flee the endless buzz of scrutiny. To Barron, Mar-a-Lago wasn't a seasonal political hub or elite venue. It was just a seaside abode, ideal for cycling, splashing, and tasting a slice of routine youth. The scene's duality comes alive in the mind, a lad shaping sand forts on an exclusive shorefront, even as elegant halls inside shimmered with lights over influential backers or overseas guests. Adults saw Mar-a-Lago as a bold declaration of influence. For Barron, the White House felt like his personal playground. Growing up amid the grandeur of that iconic landmark shaped his early years. Back in 2017, he marked a milestone as the initial male child to reside there since John F. Kennedy Jr. During the early 1960s, at only 11, young Kennedy's life transitioned from secluded family properties to the nation's premier address. While typical kids face relocations that involve new schools or local shifts, Barron's move thrust him into a sprawling 132-room estate guarded by Secret Service personnel, where even strolling a corridor evoked echoes of the past. His sleeping quarters sat on the uppermost level, within the secluded family wing that has housed presidential offspring across eras. Picture a youth unfolding in a place where portraits of former commanders-in-chief adorn every nook, and stairways resound with the legacy of bygone steps. This residence served as both a bastion and an archive. Still, Barron needed to transform it into a genuine haven, outfitted with video game setups, homework areas, and room to simply act like any other teen. Residing there also ensured his personal sphere remained under constant scrutiny. Outings drew endless observers, snapshots faced intense examination. Friends couldn't just drop by for an overnight hangout. Even casual get-togethers demanded background checks. But inside those boundaries, Barron enjoyed a level of splendor unimaginable to most youths. There were hoops for shooting baskets, expansive grounds, and the legendary Lincoln bedroom merely steps away. 3 estates, 3 distinct realms. Barron's upbringing stands out due to the diverse settings of his early homes. Trump Tower delivered high-rise extravagance, teaching him about opulence from above. Mar-a-Lago provided vast openness and liberty, functioning like a seasonal retreat where grassy expanses and shorelines supplanted polished hallways. The White House positioned him squarely in the heart of U.S. heritage, a dwelling where intimate moments clashed daily with official responsibilities. Rare is the child raised in residences that symbolize so much for so many. Even rarer to navigate 3 such environments simultaneously. Barron's youth involved juggling luxury against stress, between locales that inspired awe and those that restricted freedom. His intimate spaces, remarkable each in their fashion, were molded not merely by design, but by the demands tied to his family surname. Envision the common strand weaving through his formative times. The gilded vaults of Trump Tower, the rustling palms at Mar-a-Lago, the dignified passages of the White House. Every property narrated a unique tale of Trump identity. Viewed through Barron's perspective, these weren't mere dwellings. They formed the canvas for maturing in one of the nation's most examined clans, where one's abode always blended refuge with spotlight. The White House era, where governance intertwined with property ventures. Donald Trump's January 2017 arrival at the White House came not from a lifelong political path or battlefield valor, but from a background as a property tycoon who had honed the craft of elevating structures into emblems over decades. To him, real estate transcended mere materials like stone, stone floors, and timber. It represented a platform for broadcasting character and drive. The White House, arguably the globe's most emblematic home, embodied the pinnacle of this mindset. Departing from predecessors, Trump viewed it less as a mere hub of authority and more as an element of his empire, fusing statecraft with the savvy of a builder and entertainer. Right from the start, depictions of the White House during his tenure emphasized showmanship over solemnity, treating it as scenery for grand displays. Each entrance, media session, and chopper takeoff from the southern expanse gleamed with the sheen of a production aimed at vast crowds. He grasped the structure's profound emblematic power and embraced it fully, in contrast to leaders who distanced their personal selves from the role's majesty. Trump integrated the White House into his public image, as if it were yet another holding etched with his unseen mark. A flair for drama infused the staging of occasions. News gatherings shifted from substantive talks to visual extravaganzas. Receptions in the East Room sparkled with gilded dishware and ornate setups mirroring Trump's flair for the bold. Nighttime illuminations of the White House gained fresh prominence, beaming out via TV and online feeds as components of his routine branding. The Rose Garden, once used judiciously by prior administrations, turned into a regular venue for declarations, addresses, and image captures. Every outing hammered home the notion that this was not just the nation's dwelling, but Donald Trump's personal arena. Beneath the surface appeal, though, lurked a builder's mindset. Trump tackled governance much like development deals, emphasizing negotiations, influence, and perception. Similar to guiding potential renters through lavish entrances and sleek pamphlets in the past, he now guided lawmakers and international guests along the White House pathways, crafting each interaction into a showcase of authority. Welcoming dignitaries to the Oval Office typically involved meticulously planned gestures of carefully staged photos and meticulously orchestrated appearances, turned every public moment into a polished campaign launch. The executive mansion grew deeply connected to his personal holdings, especially Mar-a-Lago. Regular escapes to the Florida retreat merged official downtime with exclusive social gatherings, allowing visitors to relax amid grand halls and swimming areas as journalists documented high-level discussions beneath sparkling crystal lights. This fusion fostered a seamless link between his business domain and his official duties, positioning the White House as the central jewel and Mar-a-Lago as its warm-weather counterpart. Through these moves, Trump reshaped the Oval Office into an extension of his overarching enterprise. Detractors viewed this merger as without precedent, warning that the presidential residence might turn overly commercial and overly tailored to one individual. Yet fans praised his innovative approach, portraying him not as a remote leader, but as an entrepreneur seizing control of the nation's premier landmark. For numerous citizens, it marked a welcome shift from long-standing customs. For some, it undermined the office's solemnity. Regardless, the shift was profound. The inner workings of the White House bore clear marks of Trump's influence, even if he undertook limited physical alterations compared to certain predecessors. His selections in furnishings emphasized opulence. Spaces shimmered with gold-trimmed details and bold displays, mirroring the lavish aesthetic of Trump Tower far more than the restrained charm of heritage upkeep. Foreign leaders stepped into an environment steeped in legacy, yet boldly imprinted with Trump's affinity for extravagance. The placement of seating or the choice of chambers appeared prioritized for visual appeal over practical use. For Barron, Melania, and the household, the residence functioned beyond mere shelter, embodying their collective journey. Melania's overhaul of the Rose Garden sparked widespread conversation. Meanwhile, Barron's role highlighted the personal warmth inside the grand structure. Snaps of the clan strolling the South Lawn en route to Marine One emerged as emblematic shots of the Trump era, underscoring the blend of kinship, governance, and property that characterized this period. Envisioning the White House in that time evokes a structure shining brightly against the evening darkness. Media teams gathered along Pennsylvania Avenue and within chambers stacked with state papers, all while sensing this venue also advanced a broader tale beyond mere administration. Throughout its past, the building has represented countless roles: a dwelling, a stronghold, an archive, an office. During Donald Trump's tenure, it encompassed those and more, an asset woven into a family legacy, yet another estate in the Trump constellation. Far from just a home, It served as a platform where statecraft and development converged under global scrutiny. Expansive golf retreats, Doral, Bedminster, and further afield. To most folks, golf venues are straightforward spots for recreation, expanses of manicured turf, putting surfaces, and bunkers where pals connect, deals get hinted at, and shots occasionally vanish into hazards. For Donald Trump, however, these sites evolved into far grander entities. Beyond financial ventures, they acted as venues, brand outposts, and essentially sprawling estates across landscapes of sod and ponds. Entering a Trump golf venue felt like crossing into regal territory. The main buildings sparkled akin to a grand home, with fixtures illuminating retail areas and the courses themselves styled as if part of a private domain. Consider Trump National Doral near Miami. Acquired in 2012 for $150 million, the site was renowned for PGA Tour tournaments. Trump's purchase elevated it to a hallmark asset. He rebranded its famed layout the Blue Monster, highlighting his talent for naming, and invested heavily in upgrades. The facilities transcended basic player hubs. Crafted to evoke continental manners, they featured polished stone surfaces, lofty vaults, and lavish eateries. Picture showing up for a casual game and entering a foyer that resembled an upscale inn more than an athletic center. Elaborate rugs underfoot, enormous light fixtures above, and personnel welcoming you with the exactitude of a premier getaway. If Doral stood as Trump's showcase in the South, the Bedminster, spread in New Jersey, rose as his counterpart up north. Bought in 2002, the 500-acre parcel had previously been a secluded ranch held by the kin of car pioneer John DeLorean. Trump converted it into an elite golf destination. In reality, though, Bedminster's core was the central house, a residence evoking visions from noble fantasies. White columns, towering columns overlooked immaculate greens. Within, gleaming wooden interiors, roaring hearths, and lofty ceilings fostered a sense of elegant seclusion. Bedminster transcended mere golfing. It embodied escape, discretion, and distinction. For Trump personally, the property turned into a cherished haven where he lingered through lengthy summer stays amid his time in office, conducting sessions and welcoming dignitaries amid the undulating turf. At both Doral and Bedminster, the line between private residence and communal hub dissolved. The designs felt intimate like homes, yet grand in impact. Banquet spaces evoked grand halls. Changing areas exuded the sophistication of lounges. Every element was meticulously selected to underscore for members their inclusion in an elite realm far beyond basic sport. Joining such a club meant more than gaining a tee time. It granted admission to the Trump universe, blending affluence, prestige, and showmanship. Past these premier sites, Trump's golf holdings extended nationwide and abroad. Trump National in Los Angeles sat elevated with vistas over the Pacific, its pavilion providing sweeping sights to match any seaside estate. Over in Scotland, Trump Turnberry fused heritage and magnificence, its Edwardian-era inn rising like a fortress above the waves. Regardless of site, each venue upheld a unified look, opulent, evoking noble domains but invariably marked by the bold Trump signature. What captivates about these golfing estates is their reflection of Trump's vision of property as spectacle. While some viewed only links, he envisioned forging a way of life. The structures contributed to the show, with the pavilion as the central arena for members to enact their status within a privileged society. Even minor touches, gilded fittings on storage units, enormous portraits in meal areas, signaled that this wasn't routine pastime, but a deliberately shaped domain. For the Trump clan, golf wove a unifying strand. Eric Trump assumed key oversight of numerous courses, immersing himself in their workings with the zeal his father once channeled into towering buildings. Ceremonies, galas, and campaign events frequently played out in these pavilions, transforming athletic venues into versatile hubs for societal and civic pursuits. Thus, these golfing domains weren't solely enterprises, they formed outgrowths of the family's essence, spaces for hosting, honoring, and broadcasting their presence. Envisioning one of these golf estates at dusk in summer conjures a broad porch, gazing over turf gently illuminated by the setting light. Patrons enjoy beverages and plush seats amid the pavilion, as golfers complete their games against vistas of pristine paths fading into the distance. It's an image of prosperity and harmony, yet also enactment, a polished tableau where opulence and relaxation merge. Doral, Bedminster, and Trump's wider golf network reveal core truths about the family's saga of splendor. They illustrate that for the Trumps, magnificence isn't limited to homes with sleeping quarters and cooking spaces. It flows into pavilions, halls, and layouts, elevating leisure terrains into regal outgrowths of their mark. Whether in Miami, New Jersey, Los Angeles, or Scotland, the golf estates endure as tributes to the notion that existence under the Trump banner thrives not in humble dwellings, but in realms of turf, masonry, and display. The Scottish fortress, Trump Turnberry. Music. Along Scotland's wild southwestern shore, where gales sweep from the Firth of Clyde and the heavens shift hues hourly, rises Turnberry, among the globe's most legendary golf havens. Boasting vast expanses and Edwardian lodging and premier layouts facing the ocean, Turnberry has endured as a gem of the game. When Donald Trump acquired it in 2014, he secured more than a course. He claimed a slice of noble splendor, a bastion-like retreat enabling him to embed the Trump legacy in Scottish earth. Turnberry's legacy spans over 100 years. The landmark inn debuted in 1906. Crafted in Edwardian fashion that merged grace with sturdiness, its lime-washed facades and crimson-shingled peaks lent it the aura of a sentinel over the waters. Through the years, it gained renown not only for its picturesque allure, but for its place in golf lore. Iconic competitions unfolded there, and the Ailsa layout in specific held rank as one of the planet's elite. In World War II, the site even served as an airfield, its paths repurposed into airstrips for the Royal Air Force. Post-conflict, restoration solidified its status as a nexus of athletics, heritage, and refinement. For Trump, Turnberry signified commerce and emblem alike. His heritage ran deep. Donald Trump's mother, Mary Ann MacLeod Trump, hailed from the remote Outer Hebrides, a rugged archipelago along Scotland's western edge. Snapping up one of the nation's premier golf retreats went beyond mere business for him. It served as a means to anchor his lineage to the soil of his maternal forebears. Detractors viewed it as yet more evidence of Trump grafting his flashy, gilded aesthetic onto venerable settings. Admirers saw it as extending a heartfelt family tale, the offspring of an immigrant reclaiming his mother's territory and stamping it with his imprint. The deal clocked in at about $60 million, yet Trump swiftly funneled dozens of millions extra into upgrades. Staying true to character, he hyped the endeavor with extravagant claims, vowing that no cost would be too high. The hotel's insides got a lavish overhaul, featuring glittering chandeliers, polished marble, and opulent details. The spa grew larger, the grand halls buffed to perfection, and the fairways expertly revamped. The Ailsa course, boasting stunning vistas of the lighthouse and the ocean stretching out, was retooled to meet contemporary benchmarks without losing its iconic allure. Trump cast Turnberry not merely as a golf haven, but as the ultimate spot for the sport worldwide. Strolling Turnberry these days reveals the clash between timeless elegance and Trump's flair for promotion. The building's facade still evokes a majestic Edwardian fortress, its outline striking against the Highland heavens. Within, though, the furnishings showcase Trump's penchant for drama. Sumptuous seating, gold-trimmed ornaments, and subtle nods linking it to his vast holdings. Visitors can savor scotch in parlors reminiscent of elite sporting retreats, then enter salons that shimmer like performance venues. This fusion of Celtic legacy and bold Trump styling yields an atmosphere that's both steeped in the past and vibrantly showy. Turnberry has evolved into a family showcase for the Trumps as well. Eric and Don Jr. have stepped up prominently in its marketing and operations, frequently organizing competitions and press gatherings on site. For them, it's far more than a holding. It's an enduring asset, a key pillar in the Trump organization's global lineup. Symbolically, it links their U.S. dominance to their Scottish origins. That said, like countless Trump ventures, Turnberry hasn't escaped debate. Eco-advocates took issue with parts of the revamp, while money experts wondered if the outlay would ever yield returns. Foes in politics flagged the site as a possible ethical tangle amid Trump's White House tenure, given how entertaining overseas leaders at a family-owned spot muddied the divide between commerce and governance. Back in Scotland, views split sharply. Some residents celebrated the employment and funding, others fretted over turning a cherished landmark into a commercial extravaganza. Even so, Turnberry's splendor remains undeniable. Perched on its bluffs, gazing at the Ailsa Craig rock surging from the waves, you sense Scotland's untamed allure. Entering the hotel transports you to a realm merging ages of tradition with a contemporary clan's drive. Fundamentally, it's a stronghold suited to the Trump age, half tribute to forebears, half worldwide marketing push. Picture it at dusk in July, the heavens brushed in violets and golds, distant pipes droning softly, the beacon at the course's brink beaming light over the surf. Revelers assemble in the hall for a soiree, toasting with bubbly under sparkling fixtures as the waves pound the rocks outside. Turnberry embodies the wild and the crafted, the age-old and the fresh, the purely Scottish and the distinctly Trump. For Donald Trump, claiming Turnberry transcended adding to his golf realm. It meant seizing an icon, noble splendor remolded in his image. A citadel acquired rather than passed down, restored and marketed. It stands as testament that even Scotland's blustery shores could weave into the narrative of a dynasty forged on estates, chateaux, and grandeur. Irish Haven, Trump Doonbeg, nestled on Ireland's wild Atlantic shore, where gales roar from the waves and sheer bluffs jut against the skyline, sits Trump Doonbeg, a site that feels oddly displaced, yet utterly attuned to the Trump clan's pursuit of magnificence. Diverging from the bold proclamations of Trump Tower or Mar-a-Lago with their steel and shine, Doonbeg speaks softly in rock and turf, merging the ethos of Irish rural manners with the clear imprint of Trump enterprise. It's more than a getaway, it's a continental foothold for the family insignia, a sign of their bid to establish ties across the Atlantic. The tale kicked off in 2014 when Donald Trump bought the Doonbeg golf links in County Clare for roughly $15 million. Back then, the estate was in tough financial straits, struggling to sustain its expansive grounds and top-tier layout. To Trump, it represented a prime prospect, a moment to seize. He acquired a picturesque property in Ireland at an attractive rate, and even more crucially, it allowed him to extend his brand beyond the ocean. For someone who had already linked his identity to towering structures in New York and ancient fortresses in Scotland, this Irish venture represented fresh territory, a domain blending status with historical roots. Doonbeg occupies almost 400 acres beside the wild Atlantic Way, one of Europe's most breathtaking coastal routes. At its core lies a 19th-century stone building, transformed into a luxury 5-star retreat boasting over 180 rooms and suites. Encircling it is a golf layout crafted by Greg Norman, meandering across sand hills and fields, where nearly every shot rewards players with ocean vistas. In contrast to the polished sophistication of Trump Bedminster or Doral, Doonbeg exudes a wild essence, molded equally by natural elements and human effort. It's a spot where gusts can alter the flow of play, and the terrain itself appears to test your mettle. Trump quickly imprinted his vision on the site. The main building underwent renovations, fusing old-world charm with contemporary opulence, akin to premier getaway spots. Inside, sumptuous textiles, gleaming timber, and roaring hearths provided warmth against Ireland's frequently chilly nights. Rebranding ensued naturally. The venue became known as Trump International Golf Links and Hotel Doonbeg. Irish detractors recoiled at the prospect of a bold U.S. label taking root on their storied land. Yet for Trump, the title was essential. The family emblem, etched in gold, integrated into the resort's aesthetic. To the Trump clan, Doonbeg transcended mere hospitality. It served as a sanctuary. Eric Trump forged a strong bond with it, making regular trips to monitor activities. He portrayed it as more than an enterprise. It stood as a cherished gem in their collection of assets. Images capture him strolling the gusty greens, extolling the stark allure of Ireland's shoreline. For Eric, the place highlighted how Trump venues could convey not just extravagance, but genuine character. elegance influenced by the untamed might of the surroundings. Still, like numerous Trump endeavors, contention arose. Proposals for a coastal barrier to shield the Gulf area from erosion sparked heated discussions across Ireland, with conservationists contending it would harm delicate habitats. Opinions in nearby areas split. Some embraced the employment and visitors from Trump's funding, while others opposed the arrival of a mark associated with flair and partisanship. The site evolved into a focal point for broader dialogues on worldwide integration, environmental shifts, and harmonizing growth with conservation. Regardless of the friction, Doonbeg retains its magnetic draw as a standout jewel in the Trump array. Visitors to the lodge frequently recount their stays as a fusion of countryside appeal and elite pampering. Mornings unfold on the breezy courses. Nights pass fireside, sipping Irish whiskey amid the roar of Atlantic surf on the cliffs. Distinct from the vibrant lights of Trump Tower or the ornate chambers of Mar-a-Lago, Doonbeg conveys a unique splendor, grounded in the outdoors, enriched by legacy, and warmed by local warmth. The Trumps view this uniqueness as a strength. Doonbeg propels their legacy into Europe, crafting a tale of lineage and ties. It casts them as guardians of global escapes linked to meaningful terrains, not solely builders of U.S. high-rises and Sunshine State estates. Essentially, Doonbeg lets the Trumps engage in noble pursuits, akin to overlords of a seaside holding in Ireland, their mark etched in enduring materials. Picture it as twilight descends, the vast Atlantic extending to the horizon, the lodge aglow with inviting illumination under the dimming heavens. Players withdrawing from the gales as indoor flames dance. The vista merges eternal simplicity with fresh innovation, modest in its wild grace, yet bold in its aspirations. For visitors, it's an opportunity to absorb Ireland's fierce spirit alongside the Trump take on extravagance. For the kin, it affirms their saga of estates isn't limited to the homeland. Even abroad, they can revive a faltering domain into an emblem of affluence, influence, and footprint. Trump Doonbeg might not grab front-page attention like Trump Tower or Mar-a-Lago, but within the broader weave of the family's estates, it holds vital significance. It signifies not merely growth, but adaptation. The Trump ideal of magnificence tailored to an Irish setting, where breezes, waters, and rocks weave into their dominion. The Beverly Hills estate, Hollywood, and the Trumps. When the average person envisions Donald Trump, they see him amid Manhattan's silhouette, his moniker shining in metallic script atop metal and panes. Yet the Trump lineage also staked a claim on the Pacific side, a realm where renown hinges more on nearness to Tinseltown icons than on architecture alone. The Beverly Hills M. Trump's expansion into Los Angeles through his Beverly Hills estate signaled that his domain extended far beyond New York's commercial landscape or Washington's political arena. It represented a deliberate footprint in the dream factory of America, where property development intertwined seamlessly with stardom, much like lounge drinks poolside. Purchased during the 2000s, the Beverly Hills residence sat near Rodeo Drive and the iconic Beverly Hills Hotel, icons of Tinseltown's allure. Departing from the soaring drama of Trump Tower or the expansive grounds of Mar-a-Lago, this home embraced the refined elegance of the West Coast. Drawing from Mediterranean designs, it featured swaying palms over terracotta roofs and expansive outdoor spaces crafted for gatherings beneath the endless California sunshine. Far from a mere dwelling, it became a platform for forging ties in Hollywood, sealing agreements, and artfully integrating Trump's image into the heart of show business. Spanning thousands of square feet, the estate boasted vast communal zones, bordered by curved entrances and panes that revealed pristine landscapes. Inside, it showcased Trump's flair for extravagance, gleaming marble surfaces, elaborate hanging lamps, and golden touches echoing his Manhattan estates, yet tempered by the region's soft glow. Rather than imposing heights meant to impress or intimidate, the layout prioritized seamless transitions, salons flowing to verandas, meal spaces to balconies, all revolving around a radiant pool that gleamed under the daylight. For Trump, the residence's value lay equally in its visitors as its features. In this enclave, closeness to luminaries counted, and he transformed the site into a nexus for building alliances. Filmmakers, performers, and TV leaders frequented its soirees and intimate suppers. Within these networks, Trump solidified his links to fame well ahead of The Apprentice's rise to broadcast stardom. The property transcended simple ownership. It formed a bid for prominence in a realm that prized allure alongside monetary achievements. Picture an evening there in that era. Vehicles arriving at the looping entrance, the sparkle of Beverly Hills lights on the horizon, and within, attendees toasting with bubbly under lavish illuminations as Trump commanded attention amid the gathering. Negotiations could unfold leisurely by the water, connections sparked between creators and investors, and stories seeded through strategic chats. The venue operated like an exclusive venue, tailored to convey that Trump fit as snugly here as on Fifth Avenue. Its position held deeper meaning. Beverly Hills has enduringly symbolized triumph in the U.S., a district housing filmed tycoons and musical icons in harmony. For Trump, securing the estate wasn't solely financial, it was a declaration. He transcended New York or East Coast circles. He orbited Hollywood, his fortune and drive earning access to the nation's most enchanting address. This foothold also merged his roles as builder and public figure. By then, he'd shaped an identity in the spotlight, guesting in movies and series as his authentic self. The home acted as scenery and element in that portrayal, a tangible piece of his persona affirming bonds with renown. Yet, akin to other Trump holdings, the Beverly Hills estate offered more than optics. It provided utility too, available for leasing, hosting functions, or retaining as a prime holding in one of the globe's priciest property arenas. It fit into Trump's wider plan of establishing bases in pivotal spots: New York for commerce, Palm Beach for high society, Washington for governance, and Los Angeles for media. Each site fulfilled a unique role, collectively mapping out sway nationwide. Detractors might dismiss the estate as prioritizing spectacle over depth, another instance of Trump linking exposure to authority. Yet to admirers, it highlighted his versatility, his knack for entering varied spheres, from Wall Street to Palm Beach to Hollywood, and thriving there. In Beverly Hills, that translated to inhabiting a space that felt less like a bastion and more like a theater, a setting where boundaries were built to highlight not only domestic routines, but also external views. Envision the pool at dusk, palms outlined against a rosy California dusk, murmurs of dialogue wafting from the balcony, and Donald Trump exchanging grips as if the night blended revelry with a media event. The estate wasn't merely a grand home. It was a gateway to the film world, an anchor in a metropolis where perception reigned supreme. For the Trump lineage, the Beverly Hills mansion endures as a testament that their realm has forever encompassed far more. To real estate isn't merely about square footage or market prices. It's about visibility, sway, and mastering the skill of appearing in prime spots at key moments. In New York, that translated to towering structures. In Palm Beach, grand halls. And in Beverly Hills, it involved a lavish estate that connected property development with stardom, etching the Trump legacy onto Hollywood's landscape. Trump Park Avenue exemplified Manhattan's elite allure. In the heart of New York City, select locations hold significance far surpassing their physical materials. Park Avenue stands as one such emblem, evoking affluence, exclusivity, and a storied heritage of distinction. For Donald Trump, fresh from dominating the urban horizon with Trump Tower, securing a prominent holding on Park Avenue represented both a strategic acquisition and a triumphant emblem. Trump Park Avenue, an upscale residential tower nestled in Manhattan's Upper East Side, emerged as a pinnacle asset in his holdings. It positioned the Trump imprint alongside the strongholds of established wealth and societal customs. Built originally in the 1920s as the Hotel del Monaco, the structure boasted its own rich backstory well before the Trump Organization took ownership in 2001. The Del Monaco had served as a chic hub in mid-20th century Manhattan, drawing elite socialites and stars into its orbit. Transforming it into high-end apartments and condos during Trump's tenure amounted to a bold reimagining, reviving a historic gem and integrating it into the Trump dominion. For Trump, this went beyond mere property deals. It involved weaving his trademark into one of the city's most guarded enclaves, a domain long ruled by lineages of inherited fortunes. The edifice's design aligns seamlessly with Park Avenue's classic vibe, a dignified pre-war exterior adorned with refined limestone accents, ascending with subtle elegance instead of the flashy steel and gilt seen in Trump Tower. The Trump Organization faced the task of updating the inner spaces without eroding the venerable charm that Park Avenue clientele expected. What emerged was a residence harmonizing dual essences, the polished signature extravagance of Trump properties and the enduring sophistication of Upper East Side elegance. Within, the units range from compact spaces to expansive penthouses boasting panoramic glass walls framing Central Park or the city's glittering vista. Lavish marble baths, bespoke culinary areas, and dedicated staff services cement its status in premium habitation. The distinctive Trump flair, through logos, facilities, and a focus on lavishness, set it apart amid its esteemed surroundings. Among its most notable inhabitants was Ivanka Trump, who resided there prior to relocating with Jared Kushner to their Kalorama residence in Washington, D.C. Her stay highlighted the site's function not only as a financial venture, but as a personal family retreat. For Donald Trump, Trump Park Avenue also acted as a conduit, linking disparate realms that had historically diverged, the audacious assurance of his emerging wealth against the reserved protocols of Park Avenue's elite circles. While clans like the Astors and Rockefellers had forged their legacies across eras of accumulated riches, Trump forged ahead via daring transactions, media spotlight, and dazzling high-rises that commanded attention. Claiming a stake on Park Avenue declared that his domain had infiltrated even Manhattan's most fortified bastions of status. Picture a soiree unfolding in one of the penthouses, with vistas extending across Central Park, the murmur of refined exchanges among financiers, envoys, and influencers filling the air. Off to the side, a subtle cue that this wasn't merely another Park Avenue spot, it bore the Trump Park Avenue mark. The ownership label held as much import as the stonework outside, indicating that the Trump Organization wasn't just altering the city's profile, but was woven into the very fabric of neighborhoods shaping New York's elite order. Still, Trump Park Avenue wasn't free from strife. Legal battles with renters concerning lease rules and pricing conflicts exposed frictions between Trump's forceful tactics and the subdued norms of the Upper East Side, where legacy proprietors typically proceeded with discretion. Trump's style was bold, confrontational, and forthright. To certain observers, this jarred against the area's ethos. To fans, it was quintessential Trump, asserting presence in arenas where outsiders weren't anticipated. The structure endured as a potent icon, nonetheless. Residing at Trump Park Avenue meant aligning with a label that blended acclaim and division. It allowed dwellers to boast of inhabiting one of America's iconic avenues within a complex controlled by one of its most contentious dynasties. That blend of elevation and edge rendered the asset an ideal match for the Trump collection. In numerous respects, Trump Park Avenue contrasts sharply with Trump Tower, where the latter screamed buildings featuring shiny glass exteriors and luxurious gold accents. Park Avenue exudes a sense of classic pre-war elegance and subtle sophistication. Nevertheless, these structures share a common narrative. The Trump vision to command attention not just via extravagance, but via clever positioning as well. One asserts dominance by soaring skyward, the other by its elegant attire. Envision strolling along Park Avenue as dusk approaches. The brownstones and cooperatives glow softly in the waning sunlight. Rising among them is Trump Park Avenue, its stone frontage making an understated claim. Within, daily lives play out beyond expansive windows. Some residents include members of Trump's family, while others rank among the city's upper crust. Though less striking in appearance than the skyscraper, the edifice conveys profound meaning. It proclaims that the Trump legacy has embedded itself squarely in the core of Manhattan's elite status, a domain historically claimed by New York's most venerable and entrenched lineages. Trump Park Avenue transcends mere architecture. It serves as a bold statement, affirming that the Trump lineage fits not only in towering high-rises and lavish golf estates, but also within the pathways of Manhattan's long-standing heritage. In the saga of the family's residences, it functions as both a dwelling and a prize, a segment of the city's premier property forever marked by the Trump imprint, Trump's early years dwelling, modest origins reconsidered, prior to erecting skyscrapers bearing his gilded moniker. Before Mar-a-Lago, golf resorts, and political influence, Donald Trump entered the world in an unassuming Tudor-style residence in Queens, New York. Situated in Jamaica Estates, a verdant area where roads meander softly by brick dwellings and well-kept gardens, the property offers a striking juxtaposition to the persona of Trump that would eventually capture public attention. It was at 8515 Ware Place, where the youth destined to build a real estate empire, star on television, and lead the United States first absorbed the patterns of domestic existence. By Trump measures, the dwelling is compact, spanning slightly more than 2,000 square feet. Constructed in the 1940s by Fred Trump, Donald's dad, it formed part of a broader housing initiative central to Fred's livelihood. The Tudor aesthetic, featuring a sloped roof, brick and stucco siding, and a curved entryway, lent it the appeal of a British countryside abode relocated to Queens suburbia. The interior spaces were unpretentious: a snug parlor equipped with a hearth, a compact kitchen suitable for family meals, and 5 sleeping quarters that accommodated Donald, his 4 brothers and sisters, along with their folks. Raised in this abode, Donald Trump grew up as one of 5 kids in an environment blending strictness and drive. Fred Trump, a rigorous family head, had already thrived as a developer in Queens, erecting numerous homes for working-class households. Mary Ann Trump, Donald's mother from Scotland, infused the space with the rhythms of everyday homemaking. For the young Donald, the residence lacked opulence, yet brimmed with the discipline of an aspiring middle-class unit, organized, rivalrous, and laden with aspirations. One can readily picture the budding tycoon as an energetic lad within these walls, dashing along the slim stairways, frolicking in the modest rear yard, or perched at the dinner table, absorbing his father's discussions on negotiations, leases, and building projects. Though the structure lacked grandeur, it acted as a nurturing ground. Amid the neat avenues of Jamaica Estates, Trump was enveloped not by nobility, but by diligent households representing the post-war ideal of social ascent. As Trump's wealth and renown expanded, the boyhood residence gained a legendary aura. During his presidency, the Tudor dwelling in Queens shifted from a lived-in space to an artifact, a concrete symbol that the figure known for lavish marble and gold had originated in fairly commonplace surroundings. Property speculators leveraged this allure. In 2017, it fetched about $214 million at auction, well exceeding prices for comparable local homes. Its worth derived not from size or features, but from its tie to Trump personally. Briefly, the property appeared on Airbnb, promoted to travelers as an opportunity to inhabit the president's childhood quarters. Visitors might rest in Donald Trump's old room or relax near the hearth where his relatives once convened. The furnishings embraced reminiscence, incorporating nationalistic elements, and displayed images of Trump around the rooms. This shift rendered the house partly exhibit, partly attraction, a venue allowing guests to touch the past by inhabiting the site once occupied by the routine world of an aspiring leader. Such evolution from personal abode to marketable item mirrors the overarching Trump tale. Similar to how Trump Tower transformed into both a home and an international emblem, his early residence morphed beyond its origins. It ceased being merely a simple Tudor in Queens. It became a collectible item, a backdrop for those intrigued by the divide between unassuming starts and extravagant conclusions. The irony, naturally, lies in Trump himself, seldom expressing fond memories about the hoe. In contrast to other prominent individuals who often tout their humble beginnings as a testament to their integrity, Trump chose to spotlight the magnificence of his subsequent successes. Nevertheless, the endurance of that house and its transformation into a marketable icon illustrate a widespread fascination with emblematic tales. The modest instructor's residence in Queens now serves as a reflection, capturing the essence of upward mobility in America alongside the intrigue over Trump's early life. Picture strolling through the neighborhood nowadays. The avenues are serene, bordered by comparable Tudor-inspired houses, a few adorned with American flags fluttering softly on their verandas. Kids pedal around on bicycles, locals care for their yards, and daily routines play out with the everyday rhythm of suburban Queens. Yet, at the street's conclusion rises the Trump dwelling, elevated beyond mere housing to become a notable sight. Onlookers may pause for snapshots, directing their gaze not toward some grand design, but toward the unassuming birthplace of an international icon. The home where Trump grew up underscores that all vast legacies originate from ordinary spots. For him, it started in a sturdy stucco Tudor that evoked security more than showiness. Even as he moved on to skyscrapers and opulent estates, the structure endures as an indelible element of his legacy. A simple base eventually eclipsed by extravagance, yet forever intact. Amid the sprawling saga of Trump family estates, this one might be the tiniest, but it holds profound significance all its own.